Another week, another round of predictions. We had a lot of exciting developments last week with a whole new meta, teams underperforming. Who knows what will happen this week? Let's just hop right into it with our first APAC games. Starting off, we have the Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Los Angeles Valiant. I'm not totally convinced of the Los Angeles Valiant right now. I think Marvel is a pretty underrated pickup. Yes, the other players had to pay for him, but unless Marvel has fallen off, which he kinda has, the guy's a championship caliber Sigma, which can help in the Sigma comps. On his main tank heroes, I feel he's arguably the worst in APAC, other than maybe Rio. But another thing about Marvel is he actually has a pretty good Doom, and Doom seems to be strong right now, so he could pull those out on those comps. But I expect APAC to run way more ball than any other thing, but even then, Bellisria is probably better than Marvel on that, and with MN3 and Carpe on Azure Sojourn and Sus on Echo or Tracer, sign me up. The only issue I have is that I think Langsa is better for flexing the flex supports than Fixa, but Fixa should be fine. I think Philly take it 3-1, with Valiant taking a funny map, or you're just deadlifting a map. You can never really tell with these new games and a new meta. Next up is the Chengdu Hunters taking on the Seoul Dynasty. Despite the meta not really being in their favor, I think Seoul will still be strong. Smurf is actually pretty good on the Sigma, and Fitz Profit and a Sojourn Tracer meta will pound. The only thing that's interesting for Chengdu is that Ball is back in the meta, but even then, I have doubts. In theory, a Tracer Echo Ball Ascend Brig comp is great for Chengdu, but even in the mirror, I think I favor Seoul. I gave it to them 3-1, with another funny map going to Chengdu thanks to Leaf popping off on Sojourn and Tracer, as well as Jinmu not being bad on the Echo. Next up, London Spitfire versus the New York Excelsior. I think London are kind of overrated, but New York just straight up look terrible. London take it easily 3-0. Next up is the Florida Mayhem versus the Dallas Fuel. This is actually a really hard one for me. Dallas struggled a lot in their matches against the Rain and the Shock. I think blasted 3-0 by both teams. But it's not like the Mayhem have looked flawless either. They kind of look shaky against the Spitfire. I think they should have won that series. I think the Fuel games were more competitive than people give them credit for. They actually do look good on the Sigma comp in my opinion, which the Mayhem don't look that great at. But I think I favor the Mayhem here. I favor them on all the main tank compositions, and I think Hydron hard diffs Korea with the Sojourn. And I think Sergeant Marjet RuPaul is generally better than Field or Chio on the double flex. I just don't know if I can trust Fuel too much when Boston put up more of a fight against the Rain, especially on the Sigma comp. I'll go Mayhem in 5 maps. Next up, the Atlanta Rain versus the Vancouver Titans. Rain 3-0. Next up, the Hangzhou Charge versus the Hangzhou Spark. I think Charge could be interesting again, but I'm kind of unsure about them. I really want to believe in them. Farway Zen, Pog. Krong Sigma, Pog. Choi Tracer and Echo, Pog. But unless the meta is drastically different in APAC, the meta really does revolve around the hit scan a lot, and Shy is going to run train through develop if so. Not to mention, I consider Alfie better than Choi in general on almost every hero except for Tracer. Overall, it is a team diff unless they run Bernard on the Diva all game or something, but Changyun would never do that. But I still think Hangzhou can take Hangzhou to 5 maps. I do think Hangzhou will be weaker in this meta as they have to move away from the Zarya Winston, which is basically their 2 main tanks dream comps, and I don't think they're going to play Ligue A. Next up, Shanghai versus Seoul. The 4th game this season already. We have at least 2 more to go. I think if you're a meta believer, Shanghai does take this, and I am a meta believer. Shanghai overall has the better record over Seoul. I think Profit genuinely had the performance of a lifetime in their 3rd match, and relying on him to continue that is hard. Shanghai is also more prepared for the meta right now. Void is one of the best Sigmas in the game's history. Fate is one of the best Wrecking Balls. Fleta is arguably the best Echo in the game, and Lip is going to farm on Sojourn. He's historically diffed Fits on like everything, but goddamn. And they actually have a double flex backline. And no more lockdown until they have good Wi-Fi again. I gave it to them 3-2 because who fucking knows with Shanghai though. I think Seoul will be able to be competitive. Hell, I kind of expect them to win just to fuck everyone over in the new meta because who the fuck knows what APAC is doing. Next up is the Philly Fusion versus the Chengdu Hunters. This one's my YOLO pick. Hunters beat Philly again. Leave shits on MN3 and Carpe. Jinmu puts Zest in his place again. Gaga diffs Bellisria on the ball. Monk and Nisha diffed Aim God and Fixa easily. No, but for real, I'm picking Chengdu here. I think Chengdu, we're going back to the Chengdu zone era, where they force ball everywhere, and it kind of works somehow. I think Seoul are good enough to stop it, but Philly has been pretty prone to spaghetti droppage, and there has to be at least one upset this week, right? It wouldn't be APAC without one. Anyway, we now have the Defiant versus the Justice, and I think this is the Justice pretty easily. Defiant are just so bad. It really feels like they have zero read in the meta whatsoever, while the Justice, I think, are pretty good on both meta comps. Well, maybe not the Duke Fist. It's not double control, so I think they aren't going to throw map 5 like they did against Houston, and I say they take a 3-2 as Washington throw control and escort again. Next, the Atlanta Reign versus the San Francisco Shock. Double points. This is going to be good. Both teams are off to a strong start again, with both sweeping the fuel, but I just have a bit more faith in Shock right now. Shock looked deadly on every meta, whereas Atlanta look a bit worse on the Sigma comp, in my opinion. I also like Shock more individually in every position, I would say, other than Hitscan. Violet and Finn are incredible, and though I do think Kai is the best Sojourn, I don't think it's so far ahead of Kilo and Proper that Shock can't team diff them. I give to Shock, I'll say 3-2. I like that scoreline, maybe 3-1. Next up is the Vancouver Titans versus the Dallas Fuel. I think Fuel are going to be mad and will continue to improve. I don't think Vancouver take a map here, though I do want to give it to them. I give it to Fuel 3-0. Next up, Charge versus the Valiant. I want to give it to Valiant. I think Marv 1 Sigma is good, and I think Molly will be an upgrade to Coldest. I actually do kind of like Valiant's roster better, but I really don't know. I'll just go with them. I trust Valiant much more, and they overall seem better on paper, I would say. I'm going with them 3-2 against my better judgment. I do think Hangzhou benefits from the meta, but I also think they are incredibly anti-clutch, even more so than Valiant. And I think Valiant are going to get a boost from their one win already happening. Somehow, I want to like Hangzhou, but they're just not a good team. There's just some hoping for Charge fans, as Develop has apparently been sick with it on the Sojourn. But against Dia, I don't see him diffing him. For final 8-pack match, we have the Hangzhou Spark taking on the Shanghai Dragons. I'm going to be real, I don't think Hangzhou are going to be nearly as good this stage. Winston and Zarya are their ideal meta, and while I think they could be great at the Sigma pick with Ligue, they refuse to play him. I think for either Hangzhou or Seoul, I give it to Shanghai in a stomp. Next up is San Francisco Shock taking on the Florida Mayhem. I'll be real, I don't think this will be especially close. I think Shock are just better on every single comp, even the main tank compositions. I'll give it to them 3-1, with Mayhem taking a singular map. Next up is the Houston Outlaws going into the Los Angeles Gladiators. I'll be real, I think there's serious upset potential here. Gladiators look shaky, real shaky. They can't play Sigma comps to a high level and are somewhat forcing the Doom comp. Meanwhile, the Outlaws are on an upwards trend after a 2-0 week. Can they keep it up? I don't really think so. I think Doom is actually a really strong comp right now, and that Gladiators are stronger than it than the Outlaws. And the Outlaws honestly don't look too great on the Sigma comp either. I think it'll be close. Glads really do look shaky, but ultimately I give it to them in a 5 mapper. For our final match, we have the Boston Uprising taking on the Paris Eternal. Okay, while Boston are definitely not looking fantastic, I kind of like them in a weird way. They seem honestly good on the Sigma comps. They push Shock to Flasify territory on an escort map, as well as taking the Reign to 2 maps. This is combined with my belief that Paris are just still not that good. They are still very clearly bottom 3 to me. I give to Boston 5 maps, with them throwing escort, with them throwing hybrid and control again. But this is double push week, so they can keep punking almost all game and just win. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit like and subscribe for more. I upload nearly daily Overwatch League content, and I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of Season 5, so any subscription helps greatly. Thanks.